Today's talk will be on a sutta that oftentimes finds itself chanted and we don't know much of the history behind it. In the commentaries, we get a glimpse as to how this sutta came about. And the sutta in question is the Metta Sutta. Metta Sutta. And the proper Pali version of it, how it's laid out in Pali language, is Karaṇīya Metta Sutta. What is to be done for the person who wants to, in essence, engage in benevolent, universal, loving kindness. Someone who is radiating that, which is your practice for today and on this retreat. So it is a discourse on universal love or loving kindness. There was once a group of bhikkhus. Usually in the suttas we have a number. If it's a large number, the sutta compilers would just go ahead and say 500 disciples. So the 500, the number 500 became a designator of a large group. It's not like there was 500. Maybe there were more. We don't know, but basically it was a large number of people. In this case, there were 500 bhikkhus who traveled to come to see Lord Buddha. And what that usually would mean is that they would also be given a meditation object to go and meditate. The bhikkhus would, especially the hardworking bhikkhus, hardworking in the sense that they would meditate. They would just come, they knew exactly what their job was. To cut the connection to suffering. That's what led them to becoming bhikkhus in the first place. So there was a group of such monks who came and were given their meditation object, their technique, if you will. And they had gone to an area that they say was closer to the Himalayas in India. So each of them found a place that was nice and shaded. Each of them found himself a tree to meditate under. So they were surrounded by nature, and it was close enough to the villages so that they can go and get their food from and come back and continue meditating. And there was enough of a pond for them to go and shower and you know, clean themselves up, and that was their life. However, after some time, the commentaries say how they started having problems in their meditation. Not just in their meditation, but also when they were sleeping, in their dreams. So they had very disturbed and disturbing dreams, to the point where they were not resting those few hours that they would go to sleep. So, but each one was keeping whatever was happening to oneself. Because when you are dealing with such meditators, they don't get up in the morning and they say, do you know what happened? Is this what's happening to you? They don't share experiences. This is what I emphasize to students, not to go around sharing your experiences with someone else, because chances are you're going to get in trouble, or someone else will get in trouble, because they're going to think that that technique or what is happening to you is what's supposed to happen to them as well. So now they will go ahead and mimic, copy, or start comparing and contrasting, which is going to create what we were talking about earlier, conceit, So now you're going to think someone's better than me, someone's less than me, or we are on the same level. All three of them are conceit. So you're not going to get anywhere. In fact, you might regress in your practice. So they were not doing that, fortunately. But in time, the problems started accelerating and they were unable to even meditate properly. Even their meditation was being affected. They were unable to go into samadhi. They were unable to go into jhanas. So suddenly one of them has the guts to turn around to the senior bhikkhu and say, Bhante, I don't know, is this happening to you as well? And lo and behold, all 500 of them were having issues with their sits, with their meditation. Now this was very unusual. One person having a hindrance or all the hindrances is understandable. But to have all these people face the same kind of trouble, which, by the way, included seeing demons, beings that came and tried to scare them to leave the place. Every time they sat in meditation, a lot of unpleasant things they were seeing. So they know that there's something wrong here happening. So they pack up and head back to Lord Buddha so that Lord Buddha would tell them what to do. So they finally get to where Lord Buddha was, and they tell him, Bhante, we have to go somewhere else to meditate. And Lord Buddha scans with his mind and sees that that is the best place for them to attain arahantship, to become arahants, fully awakened. Nowhere else. The location is very important. There was once a bhikkhu who was attending on Lord Buddha, and he was walking with Lord Buddha, but therefore taking care of his needs. And they come across a place that had mangroves, mango trees, and there was a nice pond. And the bhikkhu says, "Oh, Bhante, I'm going to go and sit over there. It's nice and shaded, and there's mango trees. It's lovely." Lord Buddha says, "Don't go. Now is not the time to go there." He says, "No, Bhante, but you have to understand, this is just perfect. I was dreaming of this and I found the place. It's nice, shaded, mango trees, lovely, lovely, they're big." Lord Buddha says, "Bhikkhu, this is not the right time to go there." Third time, he again repeats it, and Lord Buddha says, "Then you must do what you see fit." Obviously, he's not listening to the teacher. So he goes and sits there to meditate, and after several hours of torture, he comes back and he's all frazzled, he's agitated mind, he's totally upset. Not what you expect from a meditator. He comes back, he's like, "Bhante, I don't know, this was just a horrible, horrible session." And Lord Buddha says, "I told you so." That was, it doesn't say that in Pali, but basically the same gist. That was not the right place for him to meditate. So when we're meditating, yes, the most important position is your mind, your heart. More important than the way you're sitting physically. How you're sitting, how your mind is. You're here on a retreat. Are you really set for a retreat mind? Is your mindset for a retreat prepared for that? Do you feel like, yeah? Or are you still like on two boats, one boat this way and one boat this way, and you're holding on? The outside world is dragging on and you're trying to make something out of this day. So these are questions that we need to ask ourselves when we're on retreat, because usually I would give longer retreats, and it takes time for the mind to settle because it's still functioning on the outside time zone. You're still thinking about the car, the children, the spouse, the this, the that, or business, work, whatever. But these monks were not thinking about business. They were set on their way to Nibbana, but they were having problems. Lord Buddha says, no, you must go back to that location because that is the most opportune place for you to be practicing. Because it doesn't have the outside problematic factors, maybe noisy villagers passing by, because these are luxuries, getting finally a beautiful, quiet place. So the bhikkhus are not happy, but they say, okay, he's the teacher. But Lord Buddha gives them a technique, a different technique, and that is Metta Sutta. For them to go and sit and meditate under those trees. Because they needed to practice metta, because the inhabitants of those trees were upset. You see, what was happening is each tree, according to Buddhist, I guess, cosmology, many trees, especially fruit trees, big shady trees, usually keep inhabitants there. And I'm not talking about just squirrels or birds. Beings, just like you, myself, people you know, families of earthbound devas. They live in big trees. And they also have families just like you. Now, almost all the devas know to respect the bhikkhus because they say, oh, it's a holy man. So when they saw the bhikkhus come, they were very respectful. They said, oh, okay, let's give them quiet. So the devas and their folks, their families, they were very quiet the first day, the second day, the first week, and they saw that these bhikkhus are not leaving. But this is their home. They need to go up and down. So when you're a deva, you have to give a bhikkhu his space. You can't invade that space because they have to be respectful. But this was their home. Now they can't go to their home. So eventually they wanted to get the bhikkhus out of there, somehow scare them. So this is the story, in essence, that we get from roughly from the commentaries. So Lord Buddha was giving them a tool to go ahead and spread, radiate metta to these beings who live on these trees, who don't want them there. But because that was the best place for them to meditate and attain liberation, Lord Buddha saw that this was supposed to happen. And they take their meditation objects and they go, their meditation tool. And they each go to the bottom of the tree. They sit there and they start radiating metta. First to themselves and then to the beings inhabiting each of these trees. And each of these trees with their inhabitants become very comfortable with the bhikkhu staying there. In fact, the bhikkhu, because they were sending so much loving kindness, universal, benevolent, loving kindness, the bhikkhus themselves became one of the family member. So the devas treated them as one of their own. The devas went back to their home. They felt this is good. This is good. It's a blessing, in fact. In the book, I mentioned how when you practice metta bhavana properly, what happens is you will also be attractive, you will be loving and precious to other beings, not just humans. Not just humans. You will also be precious to your leg, foot this way. So you will become loved by animals, not just people. But animals you can still see. There's other beings who are invisible. Devas, one of them. They also start to feel very comfortable and safe around you, as well as people, of course. So that's what happened with these devas. And So this is the background in a nutshell of the sutta. So it's not a very long sutta. This is a sutta that we chant in Pali in temples traditionally. Sometimes it's part of ceremonies like ordinations. Sometimes they are used just because people like to hear the words in Pali. And many times, unfortunately, people don't know the meaning. They just been hearing it since their grandmothers or great-grandmothers used to chant, and that's how it is. And because it's chanted in Pali, it's usually, it goes over people's heads, but they like the melody of it. So this would be a good way for us to kind of peek into and see what the words mean. So this is the from the Uragavagga, or the snake group of suttas from the Sutta Nipata number 1.8. So SNP 1.8. Discourse on universal love, loving kindness. For the wholesome one, seeking the deeper meaning of the teachings, eager to experience true peace, the following he must practice. This is the instruction going to the bhikkhu. He should be capable, honest, living with virtue, considerate, kind, while remaining humble and modest, neither conceited nor proud. So you should not compare oneself to others. So the bhikkhu must be honest with where he is, how he is, who he is, modest, considerate. That's the thing which is missing in the world today. People have forgotten to be considerate towards others. So many times I've seen people walk through a door, and especially if it's one of those doors that has the closer on top, I forgot the name of it. It's like automatic, it closes on its own. They open, even though they hear footsteps behind them, or they've seen people walk with them. They open the door and they let it slam as they pass through. They made it, that's enough for me. So I've seen this around the world. So no culture is immune from this. And we're becoming more and more inconsiderate and less modest. But when you're living together with a group of people, especially as bhikkhus, this really becomes obvious if you are inconsiderate. And here, whatever words that Lord Buddha uses in his sutta, we must understand there was a purpose. He never used a word without there being a necessary cause for it. He was trying to say something. He was trying to demonstrate something to the bhikkhus. Because we can easily become jaded. We can easily become jaded, especially when people come and bow to you. You start thinking, oh, wow, even kings bow to a bhikkhu. So if you are not a humble person to begin with, and now kings are bowing down to you, your own mother and father will bow down to you if you're a bhikkhu in that traditional culture. So it can get to the person's head like, wow, I am really a big deal now. So there isn't that humility in some people. And that's where Lord Buddha is coming in. Where's your humility, he's saying? Where's your modesty? So he's trying to shake off all these things so that he can inculcate, bring up a sense of metta in the person. Being contented and easy to support, unburdened by responsibilities, staying frugal in living one's life, and with his mental faculties restrained and cooled, neither brazen nor impolite, always courteous and not attached to or overbearing with families that support him. So he is specifically talking to individuals so that they become easy to support. Sometimes, last week we were here and we were giving another retreat. I was saying how important it is for our standards to reflect our position. A bhikkhu chooses to become a bhikkhu, an ordained, someone with higher ordination. But one must be appreciative and grateful for where they are and how they're getting their food. We have 4 requisites, 4 things that we need: food, shelter, robes, medicine. That's it. But we can be demanding in each of these very seemingly frugal, basic things. If I say, well, I only need to eat at a Michelin star food, you know, how many stars? That's another story. 2 stars, 3 stars, Michelin stars, what is it? But then somebody comes and says they're going to bring Dhamma, and they come in and they bring you bread and cheese, let's say. For such a bhikkhu, it really should not make a difference between the 3-star Michelin food and that piece of bread and cheese. So for such a person, well, such a person becomes a person that is easy to support. I was mentioning this weekend how I've noticed in not just in Buddhism, in other traditions, other religions, where the religious person, let's say they need transportation, someone offers them a car. I've seen people opening their mouths and wanting to get a Mercedes-Benz, and they will get the Mercedes-Benz because they have supporters. Well, why do you need a Mercedes-Benz? Why not something with 4 wheels that can drive you from point A to point B safely? Something that doesn't go to the garage every single week. But it costs 10 times less than a Mercedes-Benz. What's wrong with that? Nothing. So Lord Buddha said these things 2,600 years ago. These are still valid today, and we need to hear them carefully. Staying frugal in living one's life. You don't spend what's given to you just like that blindly. You're considerate. If someone gives you something, let's say medicine or robes or something, or a shelter, like a temple, a kuti, something that people want to donate to make sure that the bhikkhu has a place to live. You don't say, this is mine. I'm going to build a second wing over here. I'm going to build a beautiful balcony. I'm going to build a courtyard. This is mine. And what is the difference between a millionaire over there building a villa on the beach and you pretending that this is your villa, which you didn't pay for, by the way? You never worked for it. Frugal means you use it wisely, carefully. You don't overextend yourself. You don't impose yourself upon others. That's why you are easy to support, and you're not a burden on families that are supporting you. No matter how small, if there's anything that may be looked down upon or criticized by the wise, one must abstain from. So if there's a chance, even a tiny little slight chance that the wise people could blame you for it, you don't do it. Even if there's a possibility. Well, somebody might see you and that might be misconstrued. They take a picture of you using today's modern technology and they'll say, oh, look at this bhikkhu, see what he's doing? I've seen pictures of bhikkhus that you become ashamed of doing things. Like there's one picture I saw of a bhikkhu who's gesturing something with his hand that is obscene, that even if it's a layperson, you go like, oh, why did you do that? A bhikkhu was caught, somebody snapped a picture of such a bhikkhu. So there are rules, let's say. A considerate bhikkhu would be someone, even if it's, let's say, there's a pond, a lake, somewhere where they can go and wash, or a watering hole where people get their water from, the well for the village. So if the bhikkhu is going there to drink, and if he hears women laughing, or talking even, or people, just regular lay people talking there, he will change his direction and he will go and wait until they leave. That's called consideration, because what if somebody starts hitting up a conversation? Now you're engaged in conversation that does not belong to you. It's totally unacceptable. Sooner or later, you're going to say or behave in a certain way that will be misconstrued. And another bhikkhu or someone comes, even a layperson, looks at you, and they might even be talking to you, and then they will go back to the village and say, oh, yeah, so-and-so bhikkhu. I didn't know he had this. I didn't know he likes this. He was talking to the women, and then people start to talk. Maybe there's nothing, but you have just you opened yourself up for blame. So Lord Buddha says such a bhikkhu is always cautious of one's behavior, because you're not leaving yourself open for criticism. By the way, this is not just for bhikkhus. If you're wise enough, you will pick up things that you say, yeah, that's a good advice. If you're a person who doesn't want to ruin your reputation or even smudge it a little bit, you're not going to go around bars and clubs and pubs in the middle of the night. Why? Because at the very least, sooner or later, there's going to be a fight breaking out. Why? Because there's alcohol. Alcohol is a depressant. People go there to get drunk and they drop their restraints. They will do something stupid. And if you're there, guess who's to blame? People will not be forgiving. And that's another reason why we don't go outside, bhikkhus, at night. So, in this way, all beings around oneself will feel safe and secure. There was once a bhikkhu who was in meditation, but he didn't go during daytime to, this is before the rule was instituted. This was the reason why we have that rule as bhikkhus. So it's a stormy night, it's dark, and this bhikkhu gets up from meditation and goes to the village to get some food. We didn't have the rule that you can't go after a certain time at that time. So he goes there, and he's not going to knock on people's doors, but we don't do that. We just stand there. And he sees a door open at night, and a woman is doing some work outside her door. So he stands there, doesn't say anything. At that moment, there's a lightning, and it's raining. He's standing in the rain, and there's a lightning. And through the lightning, the woman sees a silhouette of this thing, monster-like thing, standing over her. She gets terrified. And he says, sister, I'm just a bhikkhu, here for a meal, if you have some. Basically, she starts yelling at him, cursing at him, that she says some nasty things, but basically, because of your belly, you're scaring me to death here. Something along those lines. And of course, this bhikkhu goes back, and Lord Buddha finds out about it, and he makes this rule that after a certain time, we're not supposed to go outside. And other things also happen, as you well know, at night, that bhikkhus would get in trouble, even if they have nothing to do with it. They were seeing somebody's getting murdered, there's a prostitute, let's say. Guess what? The bhikkhu was there, everybody starts talking. We have to be considerate. May all beings thus enjoy happiness and contentment. So here, these verses, those bhikkhus will take as they're meditating. So they're chanting this in Pali, and at the end you heard him say, may all beings thus enjoy happiness and contentment. So they're sitting under a tree, they're wishing this. It's not just the words. Today, when we were practicing metta, when we are practicing metta, what needs to happen? You must first feel it, just like forgiveness I was saying earlier. Otherwise, you just are giving away empty words. I forgive you. What is that? I forgive you, when you don't show it. Show it, don't say it, they say, right? Trust the behavior, never the words. But that's what we do. We're a species that loves words more than reality sometimes. Reality comes through action. So when this bhikkhu is saying these things, he also must show that. The way he sits under the tree, the way he touches the tree. I used to, years ago as a layman, whenever I would go and let's say I see a fruit tree, an apple tree or a mandarin tree or a pear tree, something, or an avocado tree, I would turn the fruit 3 times if it's still hanging on the branch, carefully, with love, affection for the tree, because the tree went through so much to have that fruit be made. It's its baby, think of it like that. Caringly it made this. So I would, of course, part of me was like greedy. I want that avocado, I want that apple, especially if you're hungry. So you want to tear that fruit from the branch. That's one way that most people do. I said, wait a minute, why don't I twist it? And if by the 3rd time I twist it, the tree does not want to let go, I will leave it. And sometimes I would turn, let's say, the apple or the mandarin or the pear or whatever. As I'm turning it, it doesn't even make a full turn, and poof, it comes into my hand. Sometimes I touch it and it falls. But other times, I turn it 3 times, full turns, and the fruit is still not letting go. I say, okay. So that's one way of showing appreciation to the tree. Maybe that fruit was meant for someone else. I don't know. There's no cameras. But that has a lot to do with the person snatching the fruit. Because that shows that there's a lot of greed and tanha, thirst. I want, this is mine. I found this, so I have to get it. No. One time, I was in India, and we were walking, and it was a place, it was like a meditation center of some sort. It wasn't a Buddhist center, but it was in Rajgir. And it was right under the cliffs where Lord Buddha's Gija peaks are, where the Vulture Peak is, where Lord Buddha used to live there for some years. So it's at the foot of that cliff, in a sense. So we were there were some locals, and I had never seen a starfruit tree, starfruit, which is yellowish, very tasty. So I'm walking, and there's another meditator, a much older man. And I said, oh, starfruit tree. He said, yes. And I'm walking, and this man goes and grabs 2 of them and offers me one. Suddenly, the local person rushes and says, you're not allowed to do that. She was part of the group, by the way. She goes pointing her finger at us and saying, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't take from the tree. Well, I said, well, it was offered now. I can't refuse it. I can't put it back. I can't put a scotch tape on the tree and just say, it's okay. I said, we didn't mean any offense. So, and plus it was offered. So anyhow, the next day, I'm walking underneath it, and then I see a starfruit fall right there in front of my foot. I didn't touch it. The tree offered it. I didn't touch it. So I looked for that lady I didn't want to get scolded again. But she, that was the fruit that was offered. One time I was in Capri, the island of Capri in Italy, It's a beautiful place because there's a lot of devas there. And I'm walking these tiny little narrow alleyways, beautiful houses, small yellow doors and things, nature, fruit trees everywhere. And I see this beautiful fig tree, big figs on it. Part of me said, it's so hot. It was summer. This fig would go perfectly right now. I was still a layman. But I said, maybe that fig is supposed to go to someone else. That's why do I have to be so greedy? Well, I can reach it. Yeah, but let's see. If it's meant to be, then let the fig fall. So I'm walking, and I walked right underneath it, and then I hear a boom. It was a big fig. It landed, and it rolled, and it came in front of my feet. And I looked back just to be sure what was it, and I saw that fig was gone. And I looked forward. I realized why the sound was there, because the fig was in front of my feet. So I said, "Thank you, tree." I touched the leaves, I picked up the fig, and I started eating it. So this is another way of showing respect to the tree. There's a lot of love there. And these bhikkhus were now taking these verses to go and sit under the tree and give it love. And let's see what else Lord Buddha says. Whatever types of beings there may be, excluding none, everyone is included, because there's also devas, bhutas. Bhutas includes all kinds of beings. Whether those moving or frozen, long or short, large or small, or anyone in between, everyone, tall, fat, skinny, whatever, all beings included. Whether these beings are seen or unseen, living far or near, born or those that are about to be born, may all beings enjoy happiness and contentment. So you're leaving no one out. Unfortunately, when many people do metta practice, even this kind, where they're just repeating words, they have a selective metta giving. They say in their mind, may these people be happy, this and that, but not those prisoners over there, not those people over there on the other side of the hill, not those animals, not the rats. When was the last time people sent metta to rats or cockroaches? They're ugly. They're snakes. When was the last time we sent metta to snakes, cobras, or worms, or different types of bacteria? Oh, bacteria in your gut. There's billions of them. When was the last time you did that? One time in Savatthi, they come to Lord Buddha, the bhikkhus, and say, "Bhante, such and such a bhikkhu died in the monastery." And they said he died because of a snake bite. And Lord Buddha understood the mind and the causes for the death, and he said, and that's because that bhikkhu did not offer metta to the 4 families of snakes. He just was not considering them worthy of metta. So as bhikkhus especially, we are supposed to give metta to everyone. But there's a special chant, if you will, or prayer. We don't have prayers, but chant, where we list the 4 categories of snakes, 4 families of snakes. And that includes every single snake, branch of snakes, especially when we're going out into, let's say, the woods, into the wild, into nature. So not necessarily there, because sometimes in Asia, the snakes will come and pay you a visit in your kuti. Sometimes they're very dangerous snakes. But I myself have never heard of any snake biting a bhikkhu. Recently, at least. I mean, in the suttas, I came across it. Does it not happen? Well, no one can say that. but it's very rare to have that. So, let no one talk badly about another, nor for any reason wish for bad things to happen to another, never despising another out of disgust or spite. Well, she did this to me, he did this to me, they did this to me, so they deserve what's coming. That attitude does not fit metta practice. That doesn't fit the Buddhist practice. So there's no justification for wanting to have someone be facing harm at any point. So you are overcoming that base human instinct that you sometimes see in some religions still. Like the enemy is there, so we're going to go get him. Or we're going to take whatever they have because my God wants me to destroy them. That never is the case with Buddhism. You never see it. It's never like us versus them. There's no such thing. You're giving love to your enemy, in fact. I mean, that ends the discussion. But not everybody is on that level. It's also understandable. Not everyone is capable of that. Even Buddhists are not. Sometimes you see that. Much like a loving mother would protect her only son. Always attentive and caring of him, so he should develop his mind to encompass that same level of boundless kindness. Now, do you have an enemy? Someone who's hurt you? Someone who really did a number on you, really used you, where you have this dark scar in your heart or on your heart because of that. Okay. Here's Lord Buddha coming and saying, treat that person as if you're their mother and they are your only son. Changes it, doesn't it? But we have to stick to stories like I wrote here on the board. We have so many stories. The head is crowded with memories. You did this to me. So therefore, the grudge, the hatred I feel in my heart, the ill will, the vyapada is 100% legitimate. So I can fester in the anger, the vomit, the pus, the bitterness of it, because you did that to me. Lord Buddha is saying the opposite. Treat the person as if you are their mother and they are your son, only son. How would it be different? Earlier, another student was asking a question about what about like my in-law? Let's say I have an issue with my in-law. That's the question that comes up. Could it be possible that we were something else before? Like maybe I was the in-law and she was or he was, you know, my daughter-in-law or son-in-law. Could it be possible? Absolutely. But why stop there? It could have been that you were each other's enemies, going at each other's throat for years, trying to kill each other. But because of that knot, I was telling almost like an umbilical cord that you're tied to at the waist, because there is this bitterness between you two, you will drag each other from life to life. It's inescapable. You can't pull yourself out of it unless one of you forgives. And at least you will be, if you're the one who's forgiving, you set yourself free. You cut the connection, that karmic, bitter connection, those chains that are unbreakable by life and situations, but they can only break because of you. Can you break it? And if you break it, you are, as they say, scot-free. You're free from it. You set yourself loose. But the problem is, many of us, if not the majority of us, don't want to do that. Because we're too comfortable with the bitterness of enmity, of the ill will. We prefer that over the unpredictability of the softness and the wonderful quality of metta. Because metta definitely requires for you to be vulnerable. That's why forgiveness is one of the best examples of vulnerability. And that's why most people are not okay with being forgiving. Because that means, oh, you think basically I'm a fool. Usually our culture treats the person who forgives like, he's the idiot. He forgave, so everyone's going to walk all over him. Sometimes parents teach the child like that. Go and beat them. Go and take this. If they take this, go do this to them. What if you don't want to? Not because you're afraid, but simply because it's below your level of decency, your integrity. It doesn't allow such a behavior. So the Dhamma is an educational system. We need to remember that and not forget it. You are cultivating yourself a new personality, a higher character that is not to be seen anywhere else. Because there's wisdom involved. You're not doing it like a guesswork. You're not doing this out of blind faith. You're not doing this for some God's favor. None of those things. You're doing this with understanding what this entails, what this will take from you, demand from you, I mean. And oftentimes you're stepping on ground that doesn't exist. That's the vulnerability part. Have you ever traveled to a country where you've never been and you know no one and you don't speak the language? It's like that almost. You're completely vulnerable and you don't have your phone and maybe no money. Now it's getting more and more vulnerable, the situation. But there's so much potential for growth there, to trust this person that you don't need to speak their language, you don't know who they are, but you have a smile on your face. That's the international passport, acceptable everywhere. That's the best Visa or MasterCard, acceptable truly everywhere. It sets other people's weapons down, especially when you're looking at them in their eyes with kindness, softness, with metta. So like a mother would protect her only son, always attentive and caring of him, so he should develop his mind to encompass that same level of boundless kindness. Along with universal love for all beings in the world, pouring from a mind that is boundless and measureless, spreading far and wide, moving upward, downward, all around, expanding in all directions and without any obstructions, without any sense of animosity or contention. Contention means like, well, always being in the mood to fight, to argue, to quarrel, to, you have a chip on your shoulder, maybe more than one. And that's what we have today. We have a humanity that is very contentious. You see it in the news. You see it everywhere. When we moved to the US decades ago, we were surprised. I was surprised when I was listening to the radio and you would hear radio advertisements, or even on TV, for cars. Cars where they were openly criticizing the brand, another brand. Like Toyota was criticizing Mercedes. Mercedes was criticizing that, it's better than Chevrolet or something. To me, that was like almost like shameful. Like, ooh, that's, why would you do that? You're calling out that other less than you. What is that? It's creating people to have, creating within people contention. Everywhere you look, there's a war going on. You know, America is top number one in this. Creating war everywhere, in everything, towards anything and anyone. War on drugs, war on this, war on climate something, war on, you pick whatever you want. There's war. What is war? War on obesity, as if it happens on its own. You know, people put stuff in their mouth, they become obese. Not overnight, you become overweight first. You lose control of your eating habits, you will become overweight. And because of that, you will be obese. There is not the effort to understand what's happening, which requires you to take a step back from being sucked in to whatever narratives that are going on, which requires wisdom again. This is a path of wisdom. I keep repeating to people. So my suggestion here would be not to accept whatever is being offered to you as the absolute truth. Do your own digging. Do your own investigation. But do so with kindness in your heart. Otherwise, it's just contention. That's the fuel that we have. The kids today are playing war games, PlayStation. Years ago, I used to complain that kids are starting to play Nintendo and it's getting more and more aggressive. Today, almost every game that they play, video games, it's blowing something up, blowing someone's head off, killing things, doing things, and the parent sits there. And then they shrug their shoulders and say, what do I do? That's the only game. There's nothing else. How about you take the Game Boy, PlayStation away and drag your kid and throw into the forest. Go and play with them in nature. Go on a hike together. Show them how to pluck a fruit from a tree. 1, 2, 3. Go swimming with them. Take them to the beach. If you don't have the beach, go to the desert. Do something that gets them to actively touch nature. Smell the sun on their skin. Feel the heat. So metta is very engaging. So you can start by the people that are around you before you go ahead and think about those people in Zimbabwe or people in, I don't know, the Eskimos in Alaska, people that you never might see in your entire life. Start with the people who are closest to you, especially the ones you cannot stand, like the neighbors, the rowdy ones, the noisy ones, or the dogs barking or something. Start with them. People you don't like, start with them. Whether standing or sitting down or walking or even while lying down, so long as I am awake, I shall intend on having this mental attitude, the spreading of metta. Remember, we must start with ourselves, like it says in the book. If somebody comes and asks for $100, you want to give them the money. They're trustworthy, or you love them. You want to help, but you reach into your pocket. There's no dollar, not even $1, let alone $100 to give. What do you do? Do you sit down and draw $100 and say, hey, here's $100? Or what do you do? So metta is not creating something out of nothing. First, we must have it in us. So you invite that feeling, uplifted feeling in you, at least a smile, but genuine smile. How would I feel if I'm resting after a long day's work, or, tired doing something, and you just sit there and just like comfortable seat, or you drink a lovely glass of water, let's say, just the perfect temperature, and you're really hot. You just, that's already some state that you were not in, and now you're feeling comfortable. So that's a good place. You're beginning to give yourself those $100. which from there you can go out and give people metta. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. After all, this is the divine practice of the Brahmas. It's a Brahma Vihara. It's a station. Vihara, it's a station, it's a home, it's a domain, it's an abode, a place where the Brahmas live. Recently, I was asked some questions about the 31 layers of existence. Well, in Buddhist cosmology, we have 3 different categories of realms. There's 31. We happen to be in the lowest part, but with us are many Deva realms, gods. But that first realm is all about pleasure, sensual pleasure. So we're on number 5. There's 4 layers below us. You don't want to go there. But above us, there's a lot of pleasure, more so than you've ever tasted in this life, unimaginably so. But that's the first layer. That's called the Kama Loka. Kama means not kamma or karma. Kama means pleasure, sensuality, hearing, not just sex, tasting, smelling. The music that you would hear in those realms, Mozart would go crazy for, because it's beyond anything that human ears could hear. So that kind of sensuality. But it is still a lower category compared to the one to follow, which is called the Rupa Loka. And this is where we find the Brahma gods, who live, in this case, with Metta. They communicate with Metta. That is their language. So when we're practicing Metta Bhavana, the one that you practice today, you are practicing the practice, the technique, the lifestyle, in fact, of the Brahma gods. Brahma gods, by the way, are worshipped in parts of the world as gods. But these gods used to come and listen to Lord Buddha give a talk. So when you are practicing metta, you're on the same level. That's what this is saying. You're on the same level because there's purity in your heart. It's not just metta. The Brahma Viharas are 4. Metta, Karuna, Mudita, Upekha. But we start from metta because it's a very powerful feeling that we can have. By not loitering around, living with wrong views, remaining virtuous in behavior, with clear understanding and insight functioning in his heart, and by having crushed sensual desire through the discipline of the Vinaya, he will certainly no longer come back to any womb ever again. Loitering around, living with wrong views, wasting time, worshipping ideas, views, collecting them, making a Rolodex of, remember Rolodex we used to have in the libraries? You look for names and this and that for the book. We have that for our view. So many people go to listen to Dhamma talks to add more junk in their head. More interpretations, more views. Not just Dhamma talks, anything. People are collecting stuff left and right. Meanwhile, we are getting poorer and poorer in happiness. Virtue has become passé. It's like outdated virtue. The Greeks, even with their debauchery and, all kinds of stuff going on in their life, they still, Plato and Socrates, Aristotle had a place for virtue. They still respected it and they considered it as an important quality for a human being. But somehow, in the world, especially with the Western values that are spread all over the world now, virtue is seen as something unnecessary. In fact, maybe even can keep you, backward. Everything is moving. Technology. Technology without virtue is hell. Everybody's worshiping AI, robotics, this, that, technology. Without virtue is hell. I just gave the example of PlayStation, video games. There's no virtue. I can't tell you how many times I've seen children, teenagers, even younger now, talking to their parents with their first name, addressing them in their first name. And the parents sit there, he's just cute, isn't he cute? The role has a name, mother and father. You ruin that, you ruin the whole family structure. You ruin society. And that's what we have today. Our society is pretty much ruined unless we take control of our own individual virtue. That's why Lord Buddha realized this 2,600 years ago when he talked about the 3 trainings. Sila is number one. Sila is virtue. When you take the 5 precepts in the morning, what is that? You're establishing yourself the North Star. The compass is straight. Children today don't have any compasses, or a compass at least. So we must embody what it is that, in our case, we're teaching. And this is a teaching for the bhikkhus to teach to others. And families, I'm glad all of you are here. You have families. You interact with people. Influence them with your behavior, with your virtue. Clear understanding and insight functioning in the heart. And having crushed sensual desire through the discipline of the Vinaya, he will certainly no longer come back to any womb. He's talking about metta. Unfortunately, many teachers over the centuries, especially now, even in Asia, especially in Asia, they talk about metta as if it's something that it's like an icing on the cake. It's like a leftover thing that you do, after a long retreat to feel good. You do metta 5 minutes before you go to bed. If you sat for 1 hour doing vipassana, you can do 5 minutes of metta, you're good to go. That's not metta. Lord Buddha clearly says he will never come back to any womb ever again, meaning he will never be reborn again, meaning he or she will become an arahant. End the journey with metta. This is not something that I created. This is there in the Sutta Nipata. And guess what? Sutta Nipata is the earliest, one of the earliest books that we have. We see these suttas coming up in different discussions in other suttas. That's how old this is. So this is not new. So this goes to encourage individuals to look at metta with more respect, because I've seen some people say metta is, it's weak compared to satipatthana, which is ludicrous because metta and satipatthana go like this. It's like looking at a coin and saying only this side is the coin. How does that work? Tails or heads or tails, as they say. They flip the coin, heads or tails. Well, they're the same coin. You cannot practice metta without having sati. And all the sati in the world, if you don't have metta in your heart, at least towards yourself, means nothing ultimately. You're a machine. No wisdom comes out of it. So this is a wonderful sutta to look at and have, revisit every once in a while to help you, to anchor you, especially because if you're practicing metta, it grounds you even more, especially the last verse. It sets things straight. So, sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So I stop here because, I've been giving that and this, so I'm kind of tired, but nevertheless, I might have said certain things that might raise some questions for you or comments, so please don't hesitate to tell me or bring it up. Earlier we were talking about forgiveness, and so this I thought might tie in nicely. So any thoughts, questions, comments? Yes, Joe. AI. Yes. Mm. 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 Wow. First of all, for those of you online who couldn't hear, because we don't have a strong enough of a mic for questions. Anyhow, I will reiterate with Joe, your permission. Basically, the question pertains to AI and whether, given what's happening in the world and the exponential growth of AI in everything in modern society, everywhere on the planet, especially given the example that you offered about you're reading in the news how they are currently planning on building fighter jets with bombs and weapons and all that, that is flown by an AI. So basically there's no pilot, human pilot, it's just an AI flying. And then it drops its bombs, kills people, and then comes and lands back. No, even if they bring down the plane, no human being died on the plane, at least. But definitely human beings died on the ground, right? So, and whether this poses, obviously this poses economic, financial danger to humans, and now even an existential threat is present, given the last example. And what is my opinion and advice in the face of all this? Well, I think AI has been functioning for some time. We just, when the news, the mainstream media talks about something, it's not like it's brand new, fresh off the oven. It's been going on for a while. It's just that they're just telling us about it now. That is how I look at it. Whatever the public gets to know is usually 40 or 50 years after the fact. Technologies, this and that, they have already the new iPhone that's going to come up 20 versions later. They have that. We just are being shown the 20 versions older version as the very brand new one, because if they give us the very, very latest model that they already have, they just invented today, that means they are no longer going to be selling anything and no more making any money off of those 20 different versions. That's probably like a few $1 trillion in their pocket that they're going to be wasting if they give you the latest, newest technological thing. So the drones that they've been using to kill people for the last few years. I was in Armenia in 2020 taking the Dhamma there because Dhamma was never there. People didn't know anything about it. And I was meeting patients, people were coming because I realized the war began, and I'm there and I'm refusing to leave because there's people who are hurting and they were coming from the border. And they were losing family members. And one time I heard one young woman say how it's all drones dropping bombs at people, just like you see in YouTube videos where with Russia and Ukraine right now. You have cameras on the drone, and the drone is dropping the bomb. It sees, and it's so silent from up there, no one can detect, and it's small, so radars can't pick it up. But it's being operated by someone miles away. And then what they have to do is just click a button, poof, the rocket falls, and there goes those 4 people. That's also part of technology. And the American government has been doing that for years. You know, they're here sitting, or they actually have places like in Arizona and places like that. And the soldier or the person goes inside that box, that container, shipping container-like thing. From the outside, doesn't look like anything. And they have most sophisticated things, computers. They click, some village over there on the other side of the planet gets wiped out. So is it new? I don't know. I don't think so. But is this a threat? Absolutely. I saw a video the other day of a coffee shop somewhere, I don't know where, a Western country, where they had installed a robotic arm that was now the barista, the one who makes coffee. That means at least 1 or 2 people lost their job in that coffee shop. The rich are becoming richer, stupidly rich. I don't know what they're going to do with all that money. The regular people are losing, despite the fact that they have education. When I was doing my bachelor's years ago, I heard of people with high school degrees not getting any jobs anymore. And then when I was doing my master's, I realized from the news that there are many people with bachelor degrees are not getting any jobs anymore. So you have to increase your degree level so you become a little bit more valuable, an asset. And then when I was doing my PhD, I saw people with master's degrees who were without a job. Until after my PhD, I see people with even doctorates who are flipping burgers to make ends meet. So I don't celebrate all this AI business because it's only putting a lot of money in the pockets of few people, while a lot of people are losing their livelihood. You go to America, United States of America, pick any state, pick any city like Los Angeles. There's homeless people everywhere. People who are not lazy. That's a stigma that people have. They presume these people are lazy. No, they're hardworking people, but suddenly they lost their home, suddenly. And you have millions of people like that. While they lost their homes, and now the people who are making money are the landlords who are renting their apartments at incredible fees, and no control is there. So it used to be $1,500 for 1 month rent for, let's say, 2-bedroom apartment. Now that 2-bedroom apartment became $3,400. And it's going up, and no one's stopping it. Why? Because they're controlled by the people with deep pockets, usually the bankers, who own what? Corporations. Who own what? All this technological stuff that's coming out. It's all about, you follow the money. That's the old trick, right? Follow the money and you know. So what do? What is my advice? First of all, take a deep breath. Because, yes, even though we were taught that we have to take things under control, but we don't have any control over anything. It was just an illusion that we have control or we had control. We never had control. Lord Buddha would say, do you have control over your body? I would be stupid to say yes. Try to control the way or the rate of the hair growing on your body. Control the phenomena of getting sick. Despite your healthy diet, exercise, if you're going to get sick, you're going to get sick. Or knee injury, or something happening. You have no control 100%. So realize that this place is not heaven, this place we call earth. But we can do our best to make it look like heaven, feel like it's heaven. How? Start with you. Could you do that? Changing your attitude. You cannot stop the trend that's going on. Even though there was this protocol that they said for AI, like years ago, I think in the 70s, I forgot the scientists or mathematicians, there's a term for it. Basically, they said that they can program the AI never to harm a human. It's an algorithm. Are you kidding me? You can just go in there and change the algorithm. Otherwise, how are they controlling these bomb dropping, or they also have, by the way, AI soldiers. They have that. They don't advertise it. The big governments have that. The ultimate soldier, they call it. You think it has, when it sees a human, it doesn't pull the gun? It doesn't destroy? There's no, you can write your own algorithm constantly. So people are very delusional, often. So without veering too far out, come back. Come back to what you can control. And what you can control is through wisdom, application, clearly understanding what's going on, not being fooled by what you're being told, doing your own investigation, and not being sucked into the rabbit hole. Take a breath, come back to the body, see that, okay, what control do I have? Not much. I can change my attitude, though. I've seen people who have lost control, and they've become like schizophrenics on the road, on the streets. You see them a lot, not just in America. These are people who have given up, and they're just panic-ridden. So you don't want to go there. So control your breath. Just bring your attention back to the present. See what you can, even if it means putting one foot in front of the other. That's already a lot. And remember one thing, anicca. Even AI, this is not like, permanent. There's nothing permanent. Even that is based on conditions. Even that, Lord Buddha. Remember Paticca Samuppada? Law of causation. That's everywhere, including in the robotics. But it's not the robotics, it is the being behind the robotic, the being who has kilesas in one's heart, the defilements. That is what scares, what should scare us. Because that same technology could heal people. I remember in the 80s, they were planning robots that could do telescopic operations from afar. The eye doctor would be here in Malaysia, working with some tools, and on the other side of the planet, in Australia or I don't know, Zimbabwe or Africa, somewhere, somebody would be lying down on an operating table, and they would have the other part of the robot. And the doctor would be as if they're operating, but it's the machine operating. This is in case of people not having any doctors physically, and they need to do surgery. So technology is a tool, but what is driving that technology is lobha, dosa, moha, greed, ill will. I want it, and I want to keep you out. Anger, hatred, and delusion. In the 80s, there was a movie called Wall Street with Michael Douglas and Charlie Sheen. It became a huge hit. And in it, there's a line that the actor, Michael Douglas, said. I still remember it. I saw it in the 80s once. He said, he gets in front of the stock shareholders of the company that he owns, I guess. And he says, with the mic in hand, he says, greed is good. I was a kid. I was like maybe 12 or 13. I went like this. I was like, oh boy. This is setting up a new standard now. This is making greed acceptable in our society. In fact, enviable. I used to work as a therapist with 12-year-olds who wanted to become YouTube influencers back in the day. Meanwhile, they're failing in their arithmetic, in their geometry. They don't want to do their classwork, homework. They want to get quick money. A kid. So that means that the greed culture is growing. And with greed comes what? The other two. Ill will, and especially moha, their mother. So this is very dangerous time, but you have to keep your cool, as they say. You know, the center of the hurricane, the eye of the hurricane, or the typhoon, the eye is silent. Let the world do whatever it does. You maintain your silence, your quiet. Gather your thoughts. Otherwise, it will suck you in. It will tear you into pieces. Don't be driven by what's going on. So I hope, I mean, that's in my limited, who am I to give advice on such a big topic? But do what you can, but start from where you are. That's it has a nice ring to it. I forgot what I said, but hey, it was Alzheimer's is kicking in. Okay, one question from online Zoom students. Ante, thank you very much. I have a question. What if anxiety comes from, for example, what if anxiety comes? Can metta exist with other non-pleasure feelings? When you have sati and you're working with metta properly, soon enough you will come to upekkha. Upekkha is equanimity. Equanimity will allow you to not be shaken, because it's impossible for you to always have pleasure or pain always. It's impossible. Life mostly is happening in between these two. Neutral. So when the mind is in an equanimous state, despite what's happening around you, pain, pleasure, the news, the AI, the new jet, the AI has destroyed a whole town. I mean, they still haven't apologized for what they did to Hiroshima and Nagasaki. I mean, in a few years, it's going to be 100 years. There's no apologies till now. So I don't hold my breath on politicians because they're run by bankers and they never get caught, by the way, never. So, but I'm not here to fight anyone over there. They're untouchable. But who is? It is my proclivities. My own kileshas are my problem. They are my true enemies, not the AI, not the people who are controlling the AI, killing those people, stealing your money. They're not my enemy. They cannot, because in order for someone to be my enemy, I have to have some control over them. That's how the Buddhist thinks. You must be able to influence your enemy. How? And the real enemy is here, which is blocking you from seeing the Dhamma, plain and simple. Because you're not going to be able to go over there and control that enemy over there. And if you control, how are you going to control? Kill them? Okay, their children will come up one day. That's why the Romans and the Greeks would go and wipe out the whole family, except for one person surviving somewhere, their dog or monkey or something. And that will come and haunt them Because energy can never be created or destroyed. It can only change form. That's the first law of thermodynamics. So, same thing here. Equanimity is number one. Your mind has to be equanimous despite all of these situations, because life will always hit you with something unexpected. That's the name of life. We don't meditate to control life. You cannot do that. That's insanity. That's not Dhamma. That's something else that you're practicing, totally. So you practice to understand your relationship to life. It's a huge difference there between them. So you are working with your own enemies, kileshas we call it, or kilesas. Lobha means greed. I like this. I like these. I like more of this. Okay? Dosa is the opposite. I don't like this. Resistance, resentment. I hate this. Take this away from me. I like the opposite of this situation. That is dosa. And then you have moha, which is complete delusion. Forgetting that the biggest chunk of your living experience is neutral experiences. But we just jump like monkeys from pain to pleasure. That's the life we live. We think that that's the objective. Get more and more pleasure. It's stupid. Pleasure is a little part of life. Pain is also a little part of life. The biggest chunk is the neutral feelings that which we ignore, and that's why moha is terrible. That's why we all need sati to keep awake and not fill your wakeful time with memories of resentment, anger. I will not forgive you, because that's how you're filling your time. That's why we talked about forgiveness today. Is this helping? Okay. All right. I think this would be enough for today. So let us transfer some merits. Akasattha ca bhumata devanaga mahiddhika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakhantu lokasasanam. Akasattha ca bhumata devanaga mahiddhika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakhantu desanam. Akasattha ca bhumata devanaga mahiddhika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakhantu mam paranti. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Be well. May the Triple Gems blessings be with you. But remember, blessings come only when you are in the mode of receiving the blessings. The blessings will not land in spite of you, or in spite of how your internal state of mind is. So you have to prepare the ground. You have to be accepting. And the acceptance comes with a sense of appreciation for who and what and where you are. Forgiveness of all that. Forgiveness of who and where and what you are. Appreciation of it. And welcoming of more of that. Welcoming of joy and happiness to you and into the world. Remember, metta is the most powerful force out there. So all these things, the terrors, the worries, the fears, and the dangers that we encounter or hear about or anticipate, all things cannot hold a candle next to the power of metta. That's why metta creates while the others destroy. So, be gentle and kind to yourself, but resilient and persevering in your intention to break free from all this mess called samsara. May you be well. Until next time.